Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. The Shaheedi of Bhai Mani Singh Ji caused rage within the Singhs. Filled with beerus warrior spirit, Singhs were desperate for badala. Ikdam josh vich aake, a decision was made to take revenge. This Zalim Hukumat had reached the limit of Bab, executing such a peaceful saint. This was the heartfelt decision of the Singhs. Different jathe of Singhs from all over got together, sare ikatthe ho gaye, tayar bar tayar ho gaye, and the Singhs then started to sort out many of the Mughal strongholds. The Mughal Qazis, generals and close associates of Zakaria Khan, none of them were safe. And that Qazi who gave that order, who said that Bhai Mani Singh Ji must be cut limb by limb, such a brutal order that was given by this Qazi, he could have made the execution quick and easy, instead ordering the executioner to take off angs of Bhai Mani Singh Ji one by one. Do you think the Singhs back then would have just brushed this under the carpet? Would they let this evil Qazi get away with it? No, Sanghaji, the Singhs took justice into their own hands. By finding out where he lived, they attacked and surrounded his house and set it alight, set it on fire. The Qazi, along with his house and possessions, burned down, never again to give out his evil orders. Even the neighbours and supporters of this Qazi, all of them were sent to hell by the Singhs. Then that Jalad, that executioner, who had no remorse after cutting each limb of Bhai Mani Singh Ji, who thought that this execution was something to be proud of, the Singhs did not spare him either. He was assassinated a short while after Bhai Mani Singh Ji's Shaheedi. Awad Ittihad states that his head was cut off and brought back to the Singhs. And some sources speak of Bhai Mani Singh Ji's Patija, their nephew, Bhai Agar Singh Ji, who was the Gursikh responsible for these brave actions. The Singhs destroyed many towns and villages in the name of Shaheed Bhai Mani Singh Ji. And during these times, there were even attempts made to assassinate Zakaria Khan. Many times the Singhs would try to lure him out of his castle, but he wouldn't leave in fear of the Singhs attacking. One day, a few Singhs disguised themselves as Mughal Turks and entered Lahore, closing in on Zakaria Khan's quarters. Singha ne vichar ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ that possibly Zakaria Khan will leave his protected castle for namaz to recite his prayers at the masjid. At that point, he would have less protection and we can ambush and finish this evil once and for all. But again, that day he did not leave his quarters. Singhs caused a bit of chaos when leaving, which really shook Zakaria Khan. He had decided not to go to prayer that day, and that was the only reason that he was still breathing. He was concerned now, and he started to panic. How dare the Singhs enter Lahore? How dare that they even get close to me? He increased his security, and this was the time when Zakaria Khan started to put even more resources and more effort into eliminating Sikhi. 1795 Khan Bahadur Nawab Un Bahuduk Singhan Dayo Papi Bado Kharab. It was year 1738. Singhs were attacked on a large scale. No Sikh was safe now. Having case was equal to having a death sentence. All Mughal leaders were brought together and the mission was made clear to finish Sikhi or face punishment yourself. It was such a difficult time that Singha ne Punjab chhad ditta and found safety in the mountains, in jungles, in areas like Bikaner, Jaipur, far away. And we will hear a few sakhiyan in the next episodes regarding this. Zakaria Khan, as we've heard, killed thousands of Sikh men, women and children. Not just the Singhs who were fighting, but innocent Sangat and families were all wiped out. Bhai Mani Singh Ji's execution was the limit now. Their Shaheedi was the turning point in the Mughal regime. Everyone now was doing ardasa, people of all religions begging for the end of Zakaria Khan and the Mughal regime. And in 1738 onwards is when we see the Mughal regime begin to deteriorate. Hon to Mughal Badshah kamzor hon shuru ho gayi. And what happened now? The Mughals were attacked by a great army of invaders. The Mughal regime had everything. And forces from the now Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, they knew this and they had their eyes set on Hindustan, on Delhi. In 1738, Nadar Shah became the Badshah of Iran and prepared to plunder and loot Hindustan of its riches. Nadar Shah will come now and loot the Mughal regime. The Mughals will now be destroyed by these Pathans, and actually it will work out in the favour of the Singhs. The Singhs will watch as the Mughals and Pathans fight each other as they kill each other off. Nadar Shah was such a fierce and brutal, terrifying leader that even Zakaria Khan, this papi, stone-hearted dusht that we have heard so much about, who has so much blood on his hands, even he has to give up to Nadar Shah. Even Zakaria Khan had to ask for mercy from Nadar Shah. But before we come on to this part of our history, it's important to understand a bit more about Nadar Shah's background, how born in a relatively poor family, he grew to lead great armies to victory in many jungs, often against overwhelming odds. How he grew to have such a reputation of power. Nadar Shah was born in 1688 and had a difficult and troubled upbringing. His father was a herdsman who died when Nadar Shah was just 13 years old. Nadar had to find a way to support himself and his mother. He had no source of income other than the sticks that he would gather and sell as firewood. When he was about 17, invaders took over the province where Nadar lived with his mother. They killed many villagers, but Nadar and his mother were amongst those who were carried off into slavery, and many years were spent in slavery, and his mother died during this time too. Eventually, Nadar Shah managed to escape, and he went back home, and although he spent a few more years in poverty, at this point, no one would ever think that this poor young man would develop into one of the greatest war commanders of Iran. Soon, Nadar got a job as a messenger for a Persian nobleman, running messages for him, sometimes to the royal court. It is said that he was part of a pair of messengers for this rich nobleman, and one day he killed the other messenger just to better his position working for this nobleman. However, when he was found out, Nadar Shah, realizing that he was found out, he started to get worried that his boss of his might get him arrested or killed. So he took matters quite literally into his own hands. And actually, he killed his boss, he married his daughter, and then captured his servants as well, of the nobleman. And the security as well, which he basically took over and used for his own personal gain. Over the next few years, Nadar continued to grow this gang of his to become a small private army. Nadar rose to power during a period of chaos in Iran. Rebel forces had overthrown the Iran Badshah, and there were a number of battles with land being claimed by many invaders such as the Ottomans and even the Russians. Nadar gained lots of battle experience, having a number of military positions throughout these years, and he grew to power by helping reunite Iran to remove these invaders. He became so powerful and recognized that he became Shah himself in 1736, and then ran a number of campaigns to expand his empire. The armies he would defeat would not actually be wiped out. Instead, Nadar would employ them, and the soldiers would join Nadar Shah's growing army. It was that or be killed. After becoming Badshah, he first attacked Afghanistan, which back then was part of the Mughal rule. However, he received no help from the Mughal capital in Delhi. Nadar Shah took control over Afghanistan and soon after conquered Peshawar before eyeing up the throne of Delhi. The arrival of Nadar Shah had a very positive effect for the Singhs and their path to Khalsa Raj. When Nadar came, Singhs would just let him pass freely as they knew he was doing the work for them. Followers of the Islam faith, both Mughals and Pathans, would just be fighting between each other. All 22 Subeh of Mughal regime were busy infighting, which gave the Singhs some space and time to regroup. There is a Sakhi from Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji Maharaj's time where Maharaji actually speaks about this. One time, Bhai Daya Singh Ji asked Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji Maharaj, Ki Maharaj, we say that Khalsa will rule, we will have our own Raj, but how can we take over Delhi? We have no cannons, no money, no castles, no army. Compared to Delhi Mughals, they have everything, such a massive castle. At that point, Guru Sahib Ji did a bhajan, and Kavi Ji writes this in our Itihas. Kah Singh ab samo so aaya, tho Satguru yo bachan alaya, काबल ते एक कुत्ता मंगाऊं, इनका उन ते नाश कराऊं. And the Singhs are remembering this bachan now, that Maharaji replied to Bhai Daya Singh Ji and said that I will call a dog from Kabul who will come and destroy these Mughals and pave a way for the Singhs to take over as well. Who was Maharaji referring to? It is said that Maharaji's bachan was referring to Nadar Shah coming from Iran, and in the future Ahmed Shah Abdali. Although both of them caused a lot of destruction to the Panth as well, lots of Shaheeds, they also caused the destruction of the Mughals. Only years later, the Singhs under Jassa Singh Ahluwalia and Sardar Baghel Singh Ji took over Delhi Raj and placed the Nishan Sahib on top of the Delhi Lal Qila, completing Guru Sahib Ji's bhajan. Next week we will cover how now in 1739 Nadar Shah took over Lahore, then loot Delhi, and then the discussion that happened between Zakaria Khan and Nadar Shah regarding the Singhs, who would then actually loot Nadar on the way back from Delhi and free the innocent women who Nadar had enslaved as well. Please forgive me for my mistakes. Lekha ka dana shuti hai, khin khin poolan har, baksan har, baksala, nanak par utar, Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
Please like, comment, subscribe and share this video to spread the message of Sikhi. Make your daswan safala and donate so we can create more content like this. The link is in the description below.